There's a saying that we do not think ourselves into new ways of living, we live ourselves into new ways of thinking. In other words, I can't think my way out of a rut. I have to live my way out of whatever rut I'm in and live my way into the life I truly want. Similarly, there's a saying that God helps those who help themselves. In my experience, the solution which I'll share with you in this video is one of the most practical ways to apply these two pieces of wisdom and get out of a rut. Let's get into it. Just to clarify, when I'm referring to being in a rut, I specifically mean having lost momentum in your life, having lost your sense of direction, not taking consistent action, being stuck in your head, and feeling overwhelmed, discouraged, or defeated. I'll share a quick story with you. Back in mid-2021, I was in the early stages of building this channel and had plenty of money saved up and was feeling generally good. I was consistently running week after week, month after month, and I had great energy and fitness. I traveled to Eastern and then Central Europe for the first time in my life, and I had some of the most exciting adventures of my life so far. Then in early 2022, I hit a sort of a peak in my life. I ran my fastest 5K time ever, I posted what is currently my most successful YouTube video ever, and I was overall feeling pretty confident and optimistic. So while my life was certainly not perfect, things were going pretty good, and I think it's safe to say I was not stuck in a rut. Now let's fast forward to about 1 year later. In mid-2023, for the first time in my life, I experienced homelessness. I was living mostly out of my car and occasionally in hotels or motels. I was working for Amazon nearly full-time, and little did I know for the next 6 months I would be chronically sleep-deprived and basically in survival mode. I tried to keep a positive mindset, and I did my best to keep active during this time. My higher self knew that eventually this too shall pass and that this was only a temporary situation. But still, eventually that positive mindset began to fade. Feelings of self-doubt, regret, and FOMO from wishing I could be with all my friends abroad and still traveling began to fill my mind. Add to that the feeling of burning the candle at both ends while getting nowhere, plus stress, plus pressure and hardship. It just became too much. I began to feel chronically exhausted and burned out and physically ill, which isn't common for me. The final blow came when the engine blew in my car. At that point, I was officially back in a rut. So what did I learn from this, and just how does a person go from here to here? Well, some would say that that's just how life goes, and that sometimes we're up, sometimes we're down. Some would say sometimes we take risks, things don't go as we planned, and then we end up temporarily stuck back in an environment that doesn't align with our higher values or desires. And while all that is absolutely true, this can also happen because we get distracted and stop paying attention to our habits. You see, I realized that one of the things I had been doing when life was going well was tracking my habits. Nearly every day I would review and update my habit tracker, and even though I would still sometimes fall short, I at least remained aware and accountable to myself because I was keeping track. I realized that this helped me more easily make adjustments and get back on track when I started to fade. This reminded me that it's not enough to just be reviewing my current goals. It's equally, if not actually more important, to consistently review my current habits and systems, because that's where the rubber hits the road. My karma, or in other words, my actions or consistent habits, are one of the biggest determiners of my destiny in life. So I was reminded that it's worth tracking and paying attention to them. As James Clear famously said, "You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems." Or in other words, your habits. So I was reminded the hard way that when we stop tracking our habits, it's kind of like taking our hands off the steering wheel of our life, which makes it easier to fall so far off track that we eventually lose all momentum and lose focus, which eventually puts us back into a rut. If you're stuck in a rut right now, it's probably because you don't have consistent positive habits or routines that align with the life you truly want to build. Or if you're anything like me, maybe you did have them, but you didn't stick with them long enough to reap the bigger rewards. So to get out of a rut, here's what worked for me in the past and what's working for me now. Start by listing your top 3 to 5 highest priority goals that need to be handled right now. If you don't have any concrete goals, that's okay. Then just list 3 to 5 areas of your life or just things that you need to deal with or improve. Then next, list 1 to 5 habits per goal or area that will move you towards that goal and that you can immediately start implementing and tracking. And these don't all have to be daily habits. Some of them might be once per week habits, or some of them might be 2 to 3 times per week habits. That's okay. Next, write your habits into your habit tracker, and then starting that day or the next day, begin implementing and tracking those habits. The longer you stick with this, the more aware of your habits you will be, and the more likely you'll be to keep following through on your good habits. You'll regain your discipline, your momentum, and you'll feel better. You'll gradually rise out of whatever rut you're currently in, and as long as you keep implementing and tracking your positive habits, you won't fall back into the rut. You'll be better prepared when life challenges you, and you'll be back to building that life and that version of yourself that you always wanted.